You know, the great thing about walking is that you can do it anywhere. Just put on your trainers and get into your boots and off you go. And in the Dublin area, where we're going to walk today, or at least in the greater environs of the Dublin area, there's an almost inexhaustible supply of routes and walks. The gas thing is, you know, I sometimes find that an awful lot of people tend to walk the same route all the time. But today, our walk starts in classic fashion on a train. On, in fact, what we call the DART, Dublin Area Rapid Transport. If you don't know about the DART goes from Howth and Malahide on the north side of the city, all the way around the bay to Greystones in the south. Now, we're going to get on this DART here at Pearse Station in the heart of Dublin, and we're going to go to the second last stop, which is Bray, which is where our walk starts.
This train is for Greystones.
Ironically, the railway almost wasn't built at first. The 19th century local objectors wanted to build a canal instead. However, the engineers prevailed, and William Dargan's construction is still in use more than 180 years later, as train enthusiast James Scannell can confirm.
Well, James, good to see you.
Good to see you, Jim. Dargan got the contract and he gave a quote of about £93,000, and he got at it, and they built it in about 18 months. And on the 17th of December 1834, the first train pulled out of Pearse Station, made its way to Monkstown Salt Hill, launching the line, and thereafter then it was business every day.
This is the Dargan after whom the wing in the National Gallery is called, isn't
That's
it?
The William Dargan, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, he built most of the railway tracks in Ireland as a contractor, and most of the railway system we use today would have Dargan's thumbprint on it somewhere.
Next station, Bray. Mind the gap.
Bray in Wicklow has a unique character all its own. The mile-long prom leads directly to the trailhead. Mary Davies has written a history of the Victorian past that is still very much present in this seaside town.
Tell me a bit about the history of the prom.
Well, the prom was built in the 1880s at great expense to the town councils, because until then there was very little by way of a barrier between the sea and Strand Road.
Yeah.
And so in the easterly gales, and it still happens to some extent, the waves washed right up over the grass and right up to the gardens of the houses over there, and all the houses on the seafront got piles of sand outside their doors. And also, Bray needed a fine promenade for its visitors to walk up and down and look at the sea. Bray wanted to be a major holiday resort.
I mean, this part of Bray was set up specifically to be a synonym for Brighton in England, wasn't it?
Yes, well, they adopted the slogan, the Brighton of Ireland, because it sounded good, you see.
Yes. Mary, tell me about the bandstand that's here. I know that it's the only one that's still standing of the three that were here originally.
That's right, that's right. And it's a very fine bandstand, as you can see. It was in the International Exhibition in Herbert Park in 1907.
Right. I don't think the roof is the same as was there then, was it?
Well, it's been restored, I think, but the whole thing has been restored, and the paving, of course, is all new. The council did all this a few years ago.
It's very attractive, actually.
It's a lovely
and it's used,
bandstand.
isn't it?
Oh, it's used quite a lot,
Yeah.
yes.
But you say that we're kind of unique here in Bray because there isn't another prom like this. Do you think?
I don't think there's anything else equivalent to this in Ireland, even in the other top
it's very
places.
posh.
It's a very grand promenade.
From the end of the prom, heading south, you can take one of two routes. Many cross Bray Head itself, but the cliff walk closely follows the route of the railway as far as Greystones, and that's where we're headed. It's pretty flat and firm underfoot, so it's perfect for all kinds of walkers.
This is a fairly interesting bridge. It's a feature of this walk, and it's called Fiddler's Bridge. And the reason it's called Fiddler's Bridge is because a blind fiddle player called Paddy O'Grady from the Beara Peninsula came up here every summer and played his fiddle on this bridge. So it's called Fiddler's Bridge, and I believe he died in 1940.
line ended up in its somewhat precarious location by an accident of history. Bray Head and the surrounding land was owned by the Earl of Meath, who refused to let the railway through the centre of the estate, but offered instead the headland for free. His great-grandson, the current Lord Meath, still lives nearby.
It's very good of you to come out, because this was all your land, or your family's land, wasn't it?
Oh, that's correct, yes.
And then at some point, was it your great-grandfather did an arrangement with the railway company?
Yes, it was a great-grandfather, yeah. Well, really, they wanted to progress the railway.
Yes.
Originally, it was to go the far side of Bray Head, and he said, no, it can go through Bray Head.
Right. So it didn't go through Bray Head, really, it went around it, yeah?
Well, it went around it, but they tunnelled through.
Yes.
Which must have been quite something, because in the 1840s, I think dynamite was only just invented, really.
Yes, yes.
Anyway, that's where it is now.
Now, the other thing I wanted to ask you about is why we're standing here at what everybody calls the lodge.
Yes.
Can you tell me about that?
This was built a long time ago, but I think probably at the sort of famine time, I think it was built pre-1850. The last family to live here were the McLaughlins, and Sarah McLaughlin was the lodge keeper.
She lived here?
She lived here.
All right.
Yeah. And I think she died in 1960, and she would bake cakes and make cups of tea for various people for a fee as they walked past.
But she actually charged people to go through here, didn't she?
She charged the penny or whatever it was, yes, that's right. Except, I think Fridays was the one day people weren't allowed to walk here. But otherwise, you know, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
And I'm delighted you were able to give us your time. Thanks very much.
Not at all. Pleasure.